Alright, listen man, the Doctor Who spoilers and deck lists are coming fast and furious, brother. There's a lot there, and I want to delve into the precons, but we need to discuss something first. Hey, listen, we're going to get right to brass tacks today. This is hard-hitting journalism, brother. Forget about the presidential race, forget about the Mexican alien corpses, man. Listen, we're going to forget about the Supreme Court for a second. Every game of Commander, there comes a moment when three of the players look around and say to each other, we need a board wipe. So the question is, does Farewell belong in every white deck? That's what we're here to talk about, so like and subscribe or all this journalism is going to pass you by, brother. You're going to be at a party and someone's going to ask you about this stuff and you'll be sitting there with a bacon-wrapped scallop halfway to your gullet looking like a dang fool. This card's getting a reprint in the Doctor Who product. I'm not sure where it's going to be or in what particular spot you're going to get it in, if it's in boosters or collector boosters or precons or what, but it looks like this. This art is banging, dude. I don't care what Olivia Gobert Hicks says or any of the other theater kids. You got one of the doctors, Doctor Who needs medical school, you know what I'm saying? And he's disappearing, I guess. It's a little abstract. It's got a very eye-catching composition and suits the color and mechanics beautifully. And you can contrast that with the classic Seb McKinnon masterpiece, dude. You got Hatsune Miku out here magically blowing a dandelion and blasting the little seed parachutes all over the place. Gorgeous card. It's a rare from Kamigawa. Then you have the showcase version, which honestly I had never seen before. I don't know what the heck's going on in this art, dude. I guess it's My Neighbor Totoro or something. Whatever, man. It's fine. So let's examine this bomb, dude. You got Farewell, 4 white for a sorcery, choose one or more, exile all artifacts, exile all creatures, exile all enchantments, or exile all graveyards. Basically, and I'm no good at math here, but this is a modal spell with about 15 modes. This is fairly unprecedented and makes it the most versatile board wipe in the format. You can pick one, you can pick two, you can pick three, you can pick all four, you can pick your nose, brother. Are you in an enchantment deck? Well, pick the other three, you know what I mean? Don't sleep on exiling graveyards either. That can be backbreaking in a lot of decks. So let's presuppose for a second you want to use some sort of board wipe in your commander deck. Sweepers like this are super useful, but most of the time they only hit creatures. If you have something like Wrath of God in your opening hand, just wait for your opponents to fill up the board with a bunch of junk and then kill all their stuff, dude. Very efficient. We use cards like this all the time. Wrath of God is 2 white for a sorcery, destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Don't even try to regenerate them, you idiot. Sandbagging this is a great feeling in a commander game. And getting 4 to 5 mana is pretty easy, man. But Wrath of God only hits creatures. It's one of the cheapest sweepers, but also the most narrow. We'll set that aside for a moment. There are a few board wipes that exile. Farewell is particularly egregious because it exiles. There are very few ways to get something back from the exile zone, dude. Where if you're destroying creatures and things, sometimes you're indirectly helping your opponents by filling up their graveyards. And there are some other sweepers that exile, like Urza's Ruinous Blast, 4 and a white for a legendary sorcery. You may cast a legendary sorcery only if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker. Exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. Urza, dude, he's always up to some kind of blast, man. This is great in a Legends Matters deck, but your utility stuff's going away. And there are so many legends in the format now that this may hurt you as much as it hurts your opponents. It's not a bad card, but it's no Farewell. Sunfall, dude, I thought that was a James Bond movie. 3 white for a sorcery, exile all creatures, incubate X, where X is the number of creatures exiled this way. Heliod, dude, he's another blaster blasting your balls off, buddy. This is a new one from March of the Machine. Pretty sweet card. Again, this isn't modal, only hits creatures, and for 1 more mana, you could have Farewell. And listen, man, I don't want people to sleep on this card either. Winds of Abandon, 1 and a white for a sorcery, exile target creature you don't control. For each creature exiled this way, its controller searches their library for a basic land card. Those players put those cards onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. You can overload this for 4 white, dude. This is about $5 right now. This is a pretty amazing board wipe, but it gives your opponents a big boost on mana, provided that they run basic lands. I've had it happen that they don't have enough to search for, but it's definitely a downside. The good thing is that all those problem creatures are exiled. Alright, let's take a look at some destroy effects. A former premier piece in the old days was Austere Command. 4 white for a sorcery, choose 2, destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all creatures with mana value 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with mana value 4 or greater. This is a budget Farewell now, dude. It's modal, can be engineered to benefit you, but it doesn't have the same flexibility as Farewell for the same mana cost. An 8 mana board wipe, this card sucks, Nick. It doesn't though, brother. Vanquish the Horde, 6 white for a sorcery. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. Destroy all creatures. I think this is a very slept on card. It's mostly functionally similar to Blasphemous Act. It's not a direct damage spell, but can be super efficient. A board wipe for 2 mana most of the time, dude. You can easily redeploy late game if you sandbag this thing, man. You got Odric out there with a holy sword, brother, just taking a break on a pile of corpses. From there, it's all downhill. You kind of have some niche sweepers that go in certain decks. You have things like Winds of Wrath, 3 white for a sorcery, destroy all creatures that aren't enchanted. They can't be regenerated. You want this card in an aura deck, obviously. Then you have cards like Mass Calcify. I think this is actually the only one like this. 5 white for a sorcery, destroy all non-white creatures. This is great in mono white, obviously, brother. And cards like Organic Extinction, 8 white for a sorcery, has Improvise. Destroy all non-artifact creatures. This is something you obviously want in your artifact decks if you're running white, brother. Well, you get the idea, man. Do any of these recommend themselves over Farewell? Well, this may or may not be a hot take, but I don't think so, brother. Farewell is so broad, it's so modal, it's so efficient. When I'm making decks, choosing cards, I often try to metagame in my head what my opponents are likely playing. You know, like I'm building a Voltron deck. I get my guy Sir Gwen all suited up, man. He's got hexproof. He's got indestructible. So then what happens? Well, I'm all good as long as they don't have a Farewell, brother. That's kind of the thing with this card. It's a silver bullet, but it's not just a silver bullet for Voltron. It's for everything, man. If you're facing an artifact deck, Farewell. Enchantment deck, Farewell. Reanimator deck or Graveyard Recursion deck, Farewell, buddy. Other than efficiency, I'm not sure why you'd run any of the other board wipes. Or maybe just run this and a more efficient sweeper as well. This just ruins everybody's day, man. And that's the hallmark of a good card. Enchantments especially can be hard to deal with en masse, and this just blasts them right out of the game. So let's say you had a magical machine that just made copies of this card. I guess they call it a printer, right? Should you run it in every white deck? I'm here today to tell you, yes, you should. And guess what? All versions have some sweet art, so just get the cheapest one or whatever one you want, dude. This is a reprint I'm watching very carefully. You see, folks, when a card I believe to be a super staple gets reprinted, I keep my eyes on it. So at a certain point, you have to say to yourself, listen, man, I'm running a board wipe. I'm running something to take care of my opponent's permanents. So what's the most efficient thing to run? You know, are you only afraid of creatures? All right, well then run one of the other ones, I guess, dude. Are you afraid of any permanents out there? You know, somebody's got a Ristic Study. They're drawing a card off every enchantment they put out on the battlefield. Their commander's one of these Theros gods that's got indestructible and all this kind of stuff. Then listen, man, you need to be running Farewell. I'm going to keep my eyes right on this thing. I'm going to be watching it like an eagle. This is currently about $11, depending on the version. That's a bit pricey. It's come up since Kamigawa was released, man. So what's the point of this video, brother? The point is to justify me buying the reprint for my white decks, dude. I'm going to buy every single copy I have. Well, listen, Nicky G, you're a silly goose, man. You're a mad genius. You talked me into it. So that's it, man. That's all I wanted to say. Stay safe out there, folks, and keep sandbagging those board wipes. You know, let your opponents just build up their board, right? And you're sitting there and you're like, oh, you know, I'll just play a land and pass. I'm going to play out this little blah, 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 whatever. And then just nuke the whole thing, man, because that's better commander, dude. And this is Nicky G signing off.